Hello and welcome to the next micro action sheet. And this one is called presentation creation. So let's bring your presentations to life after the preparation work we did in the previous module. So in this micro action sheet, you are going through the first step here, which is the important watch this video first. So you're watching that right now. And the purpose of this sheet is to help you create engaging slide presentations for your membership modules using our proven template structure. So step one is to access your template. So you can download my presentation template. I've had a light one and a dark one, both created for you, and each module presentation follows this structure. Remember to be able to access these links. I'll link them below this module as well, but you can click on slideshow, and then when that's in full screen, you'll be able to click those links. And yeah, I'll link them both below this module as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you'll be able to access that by clicking the link below to access the free phase one of our free version of the membership. And then you'll have those linked below the module when you're watching it inside our community. So each module presentation follows this structure. So we'll start with a title slide. So just detailing what your overall module is called. Then there's the here's what we'll cover slide. So my dad used to say something to me, which when you're presenting is a great way of remembering how to structure a presentation. And it's what I use in this as well, which is tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So it's like you start by explaining what you're going to go through, then you go through it, then you say what you went through. Sometimes that repetition actually really helps people digest the information and take it on board. Remember, we've planned this all out already very strategically. So now it's just getting the information across. So this part really shouldn't be any different to all of the other parts that we've made great progress on and great momentum on as we've gone. So yeah, we start with a title slide. Then there's here's what we'll cover. This is just what we'll be going through. And then within that slide, we detail, as you'll see me do in the modules, all of the topics that I'm going to cover in that section, in that module. And then the presentation just goes through each of those topics one by one. So we show a detail title slide, which just is a slide that has the heading of the detail that we're going to cover, then a breakdown of that detail. And then we just, at the very end, once we've gone through all of the topics, we just say what we covered. And then there's some next steps. And sometimes I end it on a quote slide as well, which is just like a way of baking in some motivation and inspiration into the content rather than me having to deliver purely factual content in the presentation and then try to motivate people later in some other way. I just bake that motivation into the content as we go because I know that it's helpful. So let's start by having a look at the light or dark versions of the templates. Now these you can access by clicking the links below or in the sheet that you just saw there. And this is the dark one. So the dark one, you can see the headline slide. You can see the here's what we're going to cover slide. So this is where your topic would go. So you might have like the topic there and then a little bit about the topic there. This is just demo text for now. If you want an example, by the way, of how to do this, just look at any of the modules that I've presented to you so far. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And if you found it clear, then you're going to be able to present clearly as well. So then once you've shown what you're going to cover, what we do is then with the first one of these topics, we simply show that as a headline with a photo in the background. And then we dive into that one topic. So that headline, and then we break that down into module details. So into kind of the individual sections of it. And then we go on to the next headline. So actually that quote, sorry, should go at the end. What we then do, so say we've done detail number one or bullet point number one, and then some kind of more in-depth explanatory points about the detail number one, I would copy these two. So I'd do Control and C or Command C, and then I'd just paste them below. And I'd do the same thing then for bullet point number two. So whatever my bullet point number two was from here on the original slide, I'd then just cover that. And then that again would be bullet point number two. And then I'd break that down into 3 points. It's very, very simple. And I just go through that until I've done all of the points. And then at the end, it gets to the summary one. So you can call that here's what we covered or what we've been through today or summary of this module. And then again, you just summarize what you've been through. Remember, that's intentional repetition to help drive the points home that you've just shown them. Then there's next steps. So this could be where you, if you want to structure yours the same way that I've structured mine, where I break the action points out into action sheets or separate modules where you really dive into the how, that's a good way of doing it. The way I think of it is my main modules are the what and the why. So it's what we're covering and it's why we're covering it. But when it comes to the implementation steps and how, like how do you actually do it, my modules would end up being like 5 hours long, some of them, if I covered all of that in the presentation. And I know that people don't want to watch 5-hour video every time. So instead, I give them action sheets, and those action sheets have the micro steps that they take to actually do the thing. It's the how inside the micro action sheets. So that's the way I do it. You can do it the same if you'd like to. And then I always end it just with a quote. I have done a light version of this as well, so it's a slightly different one. So you can have a look at this. If you like this, then great. Have a look at the light version as well. Different colors, different themes. Feels a bit different, but it's the same thing. Headline, topic headline. You can change these things. Let me show you actually how to change some of these things. So for example, say you wanted a different color right in here. You go to slide and then edit theme. And then in here, you can go in and you can just click on background there, and it gives you the background color. So I've currently got that color code or gradient selected. But what you could do is in here, if you wanted to change the color of these, you can go here and change them to blue, right? And then, I don't know if that was the same blue, was it? Yeah. And that's how it would work. And this, what you're doing here is updating the template deck so that then updates throughout. So for example, if I wanted a nice gray background, for example, click on that. And now I've got my style. That's probably not a great contrast. It's not that clear. And what that would do is then replicate that theme throughout. So let me show you how that bit works. So say, for example, I'd edited the colors. I've changed the fonts to whichever font that I want to use for my branding throughout. And say I was going to add a new slide in here. If you add a new slide in by just right-clicking new slide, you can then right-click, edit, apply layout, and then you just choose one of the sections that you've just edited on your template. So maybe it's that. There we go. Now we have the section there and we can input everything. It's the right fonts, it's the right colors and everything like that. Okay, so once you have edited the color schemes and the fonts in your template to how you want it, then the next thing we do is go back to the micro action sheet and we'll continue working our way through it. So now it's time then for step 2, which is to create your first module presentation. So we'll go through the presentation structure as I just detailed for you. It starts with the title slide, which is this one here, or this one at the very top here. And you get your module name from 1.6.1. So if we go back to worksheet 1.6.1, which we did, and you would have done this for all of your phases. So we know what phase we're in. We're in phase 1, and module 1 was here. So you can now name this. If you want to rename your modules, you can do it at this stage. And I always like to name my modules in like action oriented ways. So for example, perfecting your golf swing, or building your membership program, right? So I'm naming it in a way that implies that by going through this module, you will be doing the thing with me. It's all very action oriented rather than like the 5 steps to creating the best membership. It's like, yeah, fine, but what am I supposed to do with those 5 steps and how do I actually implement them into my own? So you'll notice I always try to name things in a very action oriented way. And yeah, and adding a clean background image. So we'll cover background images afterwards. Then we do the here's what you'll cover slide, and that's where you list your module details from 1.6.1. So if we go back to here, that's these bits. So these form your bullet points. Now you might want to slightly reword these to create bullet points, but effectively these will be your 4 bullet points that will go into here. As well, these are your module detail points. And then from there, yeah, keep the bullet points simple and clear. Remember, the bullet points are really just prompts for you to talk through, but you can expand upon those things when you are going through and presenting the module and recording yourself doing it. You don't have to just say what's on the slide, but try and not fill the slide with text so that you end up just reading what's on the slide the whole time. They're there really as prompts and to help your members see what you're saying so that you're both showing them and telling them as you go through. The next is the module detail. So for each module detail, We want a title slide with a background image. So that was here, title slide with a background image. Remember, all that needs to go here is the first part of what you add in to your first bullet point. So it might be like perfecting your swing hyphen showing you how to perfect your golf swing. And then here it would just say perfecting your swing. And you might then have a background image, which is this selectable element here of someone doing a perfect golf swing, right? And I'll show you how we can find great images to use as well there. So that's how the module details work. That's how the module slide starts with the title with the background image. Then it goes to a breakdown slide with the detail and the implementation point. So that's where we then go from here, which is where we just introduce the topic, to the details. So this is where you can have the topic headline again to the left. So again, it would say like perfecting your golf swing here, and then it would have the individual items written out and the steps within that on that we want to cover in this module. And maybe one of them could be like practice the exercise that I'll give you after this module. In our case, it's complete the micro action cheat sheet that will be your action step at the end of this module. And then I'll just show you on this one, it's exactly the same thing. It just looks different and it's just red instead of black. Then once you've done that for all of your module details, or all of your bullet points, it's then just a quick recap of the module details in the what we've covered slide. So that is at the end. That's just this one. You can write what we've covered here instead of summary headline, and then you're just recapping what you've just been through. So once you've recapped the module and you've explained what you've been through, it's then on to the next part, which is next steps with clear actions for members and simple implementation steps. So don't overwhelm them. My best advice at this stage, when you are creating your next steps, is to always ask yourself, will these steps be possible with the knowledge that I've provided my members up until this stage? If a knowledge gap exists, if there's a jump required in order for them to be able to complete the step, don't just put it there and hope that they'll be able to figure it out. Just lay it out. It's much easier to do that. The reason for this is, in my experience of running membership sites like this, if you skip a part, what you'll find is then later on your community and your members will keep asking about that thing because they'll keep getting stuck on that same bit, all because you didn't just provide the next stepping stone required to get them there. So never assume that they'll be able to do something, just show them, because if they can already do it, and there's probably parts of this that you've watched and you've thought, thanks, Lewis, for showing me that, but I'm way better at Google Slides than you are, so you're actually not really teaching me anything in this bit. That's fine. That's the best case scenario, because then you can skip through that part of the video at 2 times speed until we get to a part that you're not familiar with. For other people, they might be watching this and be like, what's Google Slides? I've never used that before. I don't know my members' level of proficiency with something like Google Slides. So this is just an example, but the same could be true with like yoga teaching. Don't assume they know all the foundational poses and techniques and breathing techniques and visualization stuff, but go through it. And if they already know it, then that's fine. It doesn't matter if you teach them something they already know, because they'll just appreciate that foundational knowledge and move past it. It's not going to hurt. But what will hurt is if you skip something that they don't know. So this is where I put in place micro action sheets, where I break down the actual how part of the module, a bit like the video you're watching right now, where I'm taking you through one of those sheets. But in here, you could put like, if there's an exercise that you want them to do, or if there's a certain video tutorial you want them to go through that explains the how, you could say it's linked below this video, and your action task after you've completed this, or your next step after you've completed this module, will be to go through that. And that's your step. So these are the things the actions that they need to take before they can move on to the next module in your content. Okay, so that's how it looks there. On this one, it looks pretty much the same, just like this, in different colors. And then that's next steps covered. And then the quote slide. So for the quote slide, I always finish with some kind of motivational, inspirational quote. And that's because I know that, I created the success tracker worksheet for you to go through and make sure you're tracking and doing your daily visualization and affirmation and mindset work every day. And by the way, if you're not doing that, reminder at this stage, and make sure you are, because this is where it's going to be really important. getting through the process of building your membership content, which will make your membership site. So make sure you're doing that. But throughout the journey as well, I know that sometimes just a little motivational, encouraging pat on the back to say, like, don't worry, you're not doing this alone. I'm here next to you. I'm helping you do this. That stuff helps. And if you can bake in some motivation to the content rather than just giving purely factual content and then later on having to provide inspiration and motivation, it can be a bit disjointed. You just want to really, in my opinion, bake it into the content and try and make it part of that process. So that's why I always end on a quote, and I'll cover. I've put themed background, but I'll cover in the next step how we actually do that, because that's there's quite a few points here where I've said, like, include clean background image, include a themed background. So let me actually show you how you do that, which takes us on nicely to step 3. So in step 2, don't worry, you don't have to do anything now. I'm just showing you the how as to how we will do that. We can do that afterwards when we build out the presentation. Adding visual elements, step 3. So for some of the background images that you see here, you can use stock imagery sites like Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay, or PX here, all examples that I've personally used to get royalty-free, commercially available or free for commercial use stock images that you can use in your modules without having to pay a license fee for them. Of course, if you want to pay a license fee, you'll get better images from sites like Getty, or you can use Canva's own library if you go to canva.com. But there is something that's potentially even better than stock images that exists now. And let me show you how to use it. So I'm going to jump over to a screen share here and show you inside my desktop version of the ChatGPT app. And I'll show you how you can access custom GPTs if you haven't already. To do this, you'll need to have the desktop version, I believe, of ChatGPT. You might not need it, but it's good to have this anyway. So I'll show you how to access this. I'll link it below this video, actually, so you can access the link to download the desktop version of ChatGPT. Okay, so here I am inside the desktop version of ChatGPT, the ChatGPT app. And if you are on there, you'll see this thing that says Explore GPT. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings up all of the custom GPT, which are kind of like apps within ChatGPT. And one of the most popular ones that you'll see, there's one there which we'll cover, but also this one, DALL-E. Let me turn your imagination into imagery. So this is a really good app. It's by ChatGPT. You can download it. I've actually used this one, which I think is pretty good as well. You could test both of them, see what you think. But I'm going to show you an example of this one here. So you can see it says image generator is the name of this. And so I can describe the scene that I want. So I could say a 4K photorealistic image of a person swinging a golf club to hit a golf ball on a beautiful golf course at sunset with the sea in the background. I put 16:9 aspect ratio, which is like the size of a widescreen TV. And yeah, we've said 4K quality already, and we've said photorealistic. So I'm gonna press enter on that, and then what it will do is rewrite this for me as a prompt. So it will put like a photorealistic image of a person swinging a golf club, like captured mid swing in a dynamic and athletic pose. I didn't say any of that, but it knows that's what I'm looking for. Positioned in the foreground, blah, blah, blah. So you can see what it's written there, but then watch it create this image now. So it's now creating this image with AI. This is an image you wouldn't have found on a stock website. And yeah, look, this is a good example actually. So it's created an image, and actually this would be perfect, right? Because it's created it, but then you've got this weird effect where a golf club is now appearing in the foreground. So let's say remove the golf club that has appeared to the right. Let's see what it does. This is a good live demo of how AI can sometimes do strange hallucinations and start creating things that don't quite make sense. But it's still an amazing tool if you can get it to work. So this is a good example of having to try and refine it. The image it will create now will probably be a bit different to the original. It'll probably look totally different. This tends to be the way it works. I don't know if DALL-E does the same thing if you use the actual ChatGPT DALL-E app that I showed you. There you go. So it's similar, but it's still got that one on the right there. So um, let's see if we can do this in another way. Remove the second golf club that is appearing on its. Let's see if that works. Okay, there we go. We did it. So we got there in the end. Now it's not quite right because look, he's got the golf balls there. It looks a bit too big. You know, you could keep refining this. So I could now type move the golf ball further forward so it looks like where he's just hit. And actually, you might want the golf ball to be mid-air because he's just hit it, right? But you get the idea. It's, you know, this is an amazing type of image that wouldn't have existed on a stock image website. And actually, you've created your own out of AI, which is fantastic. So now what you could do is click copy image, and then we'll head back over to our presentation and I'll show you what you can do with it inside. Okay, so I'm here. Now imagine this was perfecting your golf swing. And then the image in the background, you can see I've just grabbed that there. So what we're going to do is delete that. And then I'm just going to right click and paste in our image that we've got. Now I'm going to drag it to the side there and just make sure that it reaches all the edges. And then if you just right click, click on format options, adjustments, and bring the opacity down to, you could do like 15%, something like that. Then you've got that. But the problem is at the moment, the image is on the top level, so I can't select the text anymore. So to get that to go back, you right click, order, and then just click send backwards. And there we go. Now we've got the text selected over the top and the images in the background. And I think that looks pretty nice. If I was going to be talking about perfecting your golf swing, that is a slide I would be proud of. Yeah, so that's how you do it. That's how you add them in. You can do the same thing if you want to add images onto this one. Just look how I'm selecting that. The color in the background will allow the red to kind of come through the image. So it will give it like a red glow, a red hue. So you can do the same thing, but remember in here, you can click on slide, edit theme, and you can change the color of this background from red to whatever you want your brand's theme color to be. And then that will carry throughout your whole template if you change it in all of the template slides. And then, yeah, we've kind of covered that already. So just letting you know how you do that. You can do the same thing for these images that are off to the side here, but obviously they wouldn't be 16:9 aspect ratio. You'd want them in like portrait orientation. So that they are, they're not widescreen images, those ones, right? But you can also crop them as well if you need to by clicking on the crop tool, and then you can crop them, make them shorter or wider, or however you want them. You can see that one's now wider and expands in. So yeah, that's how you do that. So now we've covered using DALL-E and the image generator custom GPT. We've covered adjusting the opacity and the ordering of the image. And yeah, 3 to 5 bullet points per slide we've been through. So for example, there, 3 to 5, it's fine. Using consistent fonts and colors. So I've shown you how to edit the template of the theme. And then you can add a small logo in the corner if you'd like to. You'll see that in all of mine, I have the membership by Lewis Smith in the corner. If you don't have a logo or a branding kit, by the way, and if you just want a designer to do this stuff for you, you can head over to fiverr.com or upwork.com. I'll leave links below this module to those as well. And you can simply pay a graphic designer to do this bit for you if you want to. You don't have to do it yourself. So let me show you how you would add a logo into the corner. So what I would do is say I wanted my logo to appear on this first slide. I go to slide and edit theme. And then I'm just going to paste in my own logo here in the bottom. And you can see I've added that there. Now, when I go there on my title, it says the membership by Lewis Smith in the corner. So you can put your own logo in there, make it look however you'd like it to. And really add a nice look and feel to your own slide deck. And do the same thing here. Add your logo at the top. Make sure it works with your color scheme. If you're not a designer, ask a designer to create you a nice branding kit with your own fonts and sizing and logos and colors and things like that. And then you'll be able to work with them to refine these decks or even have your own ones created to bring your presentation to life. And then it's on to step 4, which is adding your personality. So remember, you might not be the only person who's teaching the concept and the topic that you're teaching, the transformation. But the reason the members that have come to you is because they feel like they know, like, and trust you. You have been the person they've decided they want to learn this from. So lean into that, add personality, share your journey in the teaching, add examples from your own experience, maybe add relevant stories and client successes. For example, if you're trying to share a point and it's about a yoga pose, it's like perfecting your breathing technique. You could say, when I first learned about the concept of controlled breathing, I used to really struggle, or before I learned about the concept of controlled breathing, I struggled with being out of breath during poses and feeling like I was breathing too fast or gasping for air throughout. Something that really helped me is XYZ. Then you insert the lesson. So that way you're not just teaching the lesson and saying, trust me, this is it. You just need to know it. Instead, I'm saying how I learned that lesson and how it came across. So hopefully you've felt me doing that throughout this, so you get an idea for how I'm getting across this information to you and showing you by actually doing it in the teaching of these modules as well. So that's definitely a really important part. And as you're building your presentation for your first module, inside the first phase of your program, go ahead and make sure you're adding details. You can even add topics in here, like you can write talk about point 1 and point 2 and give yourself talking notes. And then what you can do is click on this and present a view, and this will actually then show you the slide talking points whilst you have the main slide on the screen. Right, so the main slide will be the thing that people are seeing, but you'll see the talk points underneath, or the slide notes. So that can be quite helpful as well if you want a bit of a reminder about what to cover on each of the points. And then it's on to step 5. And this is your next steps. So download the presentation template of your choosing, whether it's the dark version or the light version that you're going to use, and then create your first phase 1 module. So when you're doing this, take the time to get your slide template right. Choose your color scheme, choose your fonts, choose the font sizing and the branding, add your logo. Remember, you can go to fiverr.com or upwork.com to find a graphic designer to help with this stuff and get a really nice branding kit put together. But the important part of this is that as you go through this, you set realistic goals, a realistic daily goal. For example, it might be just create 1 module per day. Don't force yourself to create all of your modules for phase 1 in one day. That's probably too much. Just 1 module per day, even if it's half a module per day. The most important part about this is the consistent momentum. It's that you don't stop. It's that you continue to make progress day by day and just tick those things off. Remember, I created you a daily success tracker in 1.3.2 from earlier. Make sure you're still using that. And where it says today I and tomorrow I will, that's where you put tomorrow I will plan and script and write out module 1.1. Plan and script out module 1.2. Plan and script out module 1.3, right? So you then work your way through phase 1 of your membership, which, by the way, remember, will become the free part of your membership that you'll give away for free inside your free school community, with the view that once people go through that transformation that it provides, they'll become the perfect kind of members to move up into your paid version. So the best way of showing someone that you can help them in the paid version of your membership is by actually helping them in the free version of it. That is the best test of whether they would want to buy from you or not, because then you don't need to convince anyone to buy, because your content has convinced them for you. So, final point on this, focus only on creating your phase 1 slides right now. Take it 1 module at a time. No need to think about recording yet. This process might actually take you a few days to get right, because you might be working a job at the moment and you've only got a couple of hours in the morning, or an hour in the evening, an hour in the morning to work on this. But the effort that you put in now will pay off with a value-packed membership that attracts and retains members for months or years to come. Your future self will thank you for the time that you put in today. So, you've got this. Let's make it happen. I'll see you in the next action sheet.